Captain watched Earth burn through the main screen of her battleship. The blue and green world that had given birth to humanity was now covered in orange flames and black smoke. Enemy ships moved across the sky like metal vultures, dropping bombs on cities that had stood for thousands of years. "Captain, we need to leave now," said Commander from his station. His voice was calm but could hear the pain underneath. They were all watching their home world die. "The fleet is moving to surround us." Gripped the arms of her captain's chair. The UHS Indomitable was the last human warship still fighting. Around them, the wreckage of their fleet floated in space like a graveyard of metal and dreams. Ships that had once carried the pride of humanity were now twisted chunks of steel and ceramic. "How many crew do we have left?" asked. 847 souls, Captain," reported Lieutenant from the crew station. "All departments are reporting in. We're hurt, but we're still fighting." Nodded, 847 people. That was all that remained of the human defense fleet. 10 years ago, they had commanded over 2 million soldiers and sailors across hundreds of worlds. Now they were the last organized military force humanity had left. "What's our damage report?" called to the chief engineer. Chief engineer looked up from his console, grease covering his hands and uniform. "We took a beating, Captain. Hull breaches on decks 12 through 15. Main engines are running at 60%. Weapons systems are mostly working, but we're down to emergency power in some sections." "And the quantum drive?" asked quietly. Glanced around, then lowered his voice. "Still intact, Captain. The aliens don't know we have it. As far as they know, all the prototype quantum drives were destroyed when the research station was hit." Felt a small spark of hope. The quantum resonance drive was humanity's most advanced technology. It could move ships faster than anything the aliens had. But more than that, it held secrets that even her own crew didn't fully understand. The main screen flickered, and an alien transmission came through. The face of Admiral appeared, her scaled features twisted in what humans had learned was a smile of victory. The leader spoke in perfectly clear English. "Captain of the human vessel Indomitable," said, "you have fought bravely, but your war is over. Surrender now, and I will allow your crew to live as prisoners." Stood up slowly. "Admiral, you've destroyed our worlds, killed our people, and turned our home into ash. Why should I trust anything you say?" Smile grew wider, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Because, human, you have no choice. Your species is finished. In 72 hours, every human colony world will be destroyed. Every city, every outpost, every place where your kind might hide. This is the final solution to the human problem." Felt her blood turn cold. There were still billions of humans on colony worlds across the galaxy. Men, women, and children who had done nothing wrong except be born human. The aliens planned to kill them all. "You're talking about genocide?" said. "I am talking about necessity," replied. "Your species is dangerous. You adapt too quickly. You fight too hard. You refuse to accept defeat even when it is logical. The hegemony has decided that humans cannot be allowed to exist." Looked around the bridge at her crew. These people had followed her through 10 years of war. They had watched their friends die, their homes burn, their civilization fall. But they were still here, still fighting. "I have a counteroffer for you, Admiral," said. "Go to hell." Cut the transmission. The bridge was silent for a moment, then slowly, one by one, her crew began to smile. It was a hard smile, the kind that soldiers wore when they knew they were going to die, but planned to take their enemies with them. "Orders, Captain?" asked Commander. Sat back down in her chair and studied the tactical display. The Grand Armada was gathering at Nexus, 3 systems away. Over 3,000 ships preparing to coordinate the final attack on human colonies. The largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. "Plot a course for hyperspace," said. "Take us away from Earth." "Where are we going, Captain?" asked the navigation officer. Was quiet for a long moment, watching Earth disappear behind them as the Indomitable limped away from the battle. She thought about the quantum drive hidden in their engine room. She thought about her crew, brave and loyal to the end. She thought about billions of innocent people who would die in 3 days unless someone stopped the aliens. "We're going to save the human race," said finally, "even if it kills us." Dr. Sarah, the ship's physicist, looked up from her station. "Captain, what you're thinking? It's never been tested. The quantum drive wasn't designed as a weapon." "But it could work?" asked. Doctor hesitated. Theoretically, yes, but we would have to get close to their fleet, very close, and the process would take time we wouldn't have in a battle. Nodded slowly. She understood what Doctor wasn't saying directly. If they tried this plan, they would all die. The Indomitable would be destroyed and everyone on board with it. Chief said, "How long would you need to modify the quantum drive for? Alternative use." Thought for a moment. 48 hours, Captain, but I'd need to know exactly what we're planning to do. Looked around at her crew one more time. These were good people. They deserved better than this. They deserved to live to see humanity's children grow up in peace. But that wasn't the choice they had been given. "We're going to stop the Grand Armada," said. "All of it." The bridge was silent. Everyone understood what that meant. One ship against 3,000. A suicide mission with no hope of survival. "Orders, Captain?" asked again, his voice steady. "Set course for Nexus," said. "And send a message to all human colonies. Tell them to prepare for the worst but never give up hope. Tell them that the Indomitable is coming." The emergency meeting took place in the Indomitable's main conference room. Captain sat at the head of the table, looking at the faces of her senior officers. These people had been with her for years. They had fought together, bled together, and now they had to decide together how they were going to die. Commander spoke first. "Captain, I have to say this clearly. What you're suggesting is impossible. One battleship cannot defeat 3,000 enemy ships. We would be destroyed before we got close enough to use the quantum drive as a weapon." Dr. Sarah nodded sadly. "The math is simple. The Grand Armada has enough firepower to destroy a moon. We're just one ship, already damaged from the battle at Earth. Even if we could somehow reach them, the quantum drive needs 47 minutes to charge for a full cascade effect." 47 minutes of fighting 3,000 ships, added Chief. "Our weapons would run out of ammunition in 10 minutes. Our shields would fail in 5. Listen to their concerns. She had expected them. Her officers were smart people who understood the reality of their situation. But they were thinking like military officers, not like desperate humans with nothing left to lose. "You're right," said. "In a normal battle, we would lose. But this isn't going to be a normal battle. The aliens expect us to fight like a military ship. They expect us to follow standard tactics and try to win through superior firepower." Lieutenant looked confused. "What else can we do, Captain?" Stood up and walked to the wall screen, which showed the layout of the Nexus system. "We don't fight like a military ship. We fight like humans. We do things the aliens would never expect, use tactics they would never try, and turn our weaknesses into advantages." Doctor leaned forward. "What kind of tactics?" Smiled, but it was a cold smile. "Crazy ones, desperate ones, the kind that only work when you have nothing left to lose." She pointed to the screen. "The Grand Armada is positioned in a standard defensive formation around station. They're expecting to coordinate the final attack on human colonies from there. They're not expecting a single damaged ship to attack them." Commander frowned. "Captain, even if we surprise them, we still can't win a direct fight." "We don't need to win," said. "We just need to survive long enough to charge the quantum drive and activate it from the center of their formation. 47 minutes, that's all we need." Chief scratched his beard. "The quantum drive modification? It's dangerous, Captain. I've been thinking about it. If we overload the quantum resonance chamber and reverse the containment field, it would create a space-time rupture. But the energy release would be massive. It would destroy everything within 50,000 kilometers. "Including us," Doctor added quietly. Nodded. "Including us. That's the price. One ship and 847 lives to save billions of innocent humans." The room was silent for a long moment. Could see her officers thinking, weighing the impossible choice. Run away and live, abandoning humanity to genocide, or stay and fight, knowing they would die but maybe save their species. Lieutenant was the first to speak. "My sister lives on New Carolina Colony. She has 3 children," he looked up at. "If we don't stop the Armada, they'll all die." Doctor wiped tears from her eyes. "I designed the quantum drive to help humanity explore the galaxy, not to destroy alien fleets, but if it can save our people," she took a deep breath, "I'll help you modify it." One by one, the other officers nodded their agreement. They were choosing death, but they were choosing it for a reason. They were choosing to die as humans, fighting to the last breath for their species. Commander was the last to speak. "Captain, I still think this plan is insane, but insane might be exactly what we need. The aliens think they understand humans, but they've never seen us when we have absolutely nothing left to lose. Sat back down. Good, then let's talk about how we're going to do this impossible thing. Chief pulled up the technical schematics. The quantum drive modification will take 2 days. I'll need to reroute the entire power grid and rebuild the containment system. It's dangerous work. One mistake and we could blow up the ship early. What do you need? Asked. Every engineer we have, and I mean everyone, even the ones who are supposed to be resting, will have to work in shifts around the clock. Doctor added, I'll need to recalculate all the quantum field equations. The drive was never designed to create a cascade rupture. I'm basically turning a tool for space travel into the largest bomb in galactic history. Turn to Commander. What about the battle plan? How do we get close enough to use the weapon? Studied the tactical display. We'll have to be smart about it. Use their own formations against them. The aliens rely on coordinated attacks and long-range weapons. If we can get in close, fight at point-blank range, they won't be able to use their full firepower without hitting their own ships. That's still 3,000 against 1, pointed out. Smiled again. Not if we make them think we're not a threat. How badly damaged do we look from the outside? Grinned. Pretty bad, Captain. Hull breaches, scorch marks, twisted metal. We look like a ship that should have died back at Earth. Perfect. We'll use that. Approach them as a damaged refugee ship broadcasting a distress signal. Make them think we're just trying to escape. By the time they realize what we're really doing, we'll be in the middle of their formation. Doctor looked worried. Captain, even if this works, even if we get close enough and the quantum weapon functions perfectly, we're still talking about our own deaths. Everyone on this ship will die. Stood up and looked at each of her officers in turn. I know, and I'm not ordering anyone to do this. This has to be a choice. Every person on this ship gets to decide for themselves. Commander shook his head. No, Captain. We decided together 10 years ago when we swore our oaths. We decided to defend humanity, no matter what the cost. That oath doesn't change just because the cost got higher. Felt proud of these people. They were scared, she could see that, but they were also determined. They had found something worth dying for. All right then, said. We have 60 hours before the aliens begin their attack on the colonies. Start the modifications. Doctor, run your calculations. Work on the battle plan. Prepare the crew. Tell them what we're planning and make sure they understand they can still leave if they want to. The officers began to file out of the conference room, each going to prepare for humanity's last desperate gamble. Remained behind, staring at the screen that showed the location of the Grand Armada. 3,000 ships, the most powerful fleet ever assembled, all of them preparing to commit genocide against her species. Whispered to the empty room, we're coming for you, and when we arrive, you're going to learn why you should never corner a desperate human. Outside the conference room, the crew of the Indomitable began preparing for their final battle. They worked with quiet determination, knowing they were about to attempt something impossible. But they were human, and humans had always specialized in doing impossible things. The countdown had begun. In 60 hours, they would either save their species or die trying. For the crew of the Indomitable, that was good enough. The next 48 hours changed everything aboard the Indomitable. The ship buzzed with activity as every crew member worked toward their impossible goal. Engineering teams crawled through maintenance tunnels, rerouting power cables and rebuilding systems that were never meant to be modified. Scientists ran calculations on computers that grew hot from constant use. Weapons teams prepared ammunition that would probably never be fired. Captain walked through the ship, checking on her people. In engineering, she found Chief welding new connections to the quantum drive housing. Sparks flew around him as he worked, and sweat poured down his face. How are we doing, Chief? Asked. Paused his welding and lifted his protective mask. It's working, Captain. Barely. I've had to reroute so much power that half the ship's systems are running on backup power. But the quantum drive will charge when we need it to. And the weapon modifications. Grinned. That's the beautiful part, Captain. Doctor's calculations are perfect. When we reverse the containment field, the quantum drive will tear a hole in spacetime itself. The energy release will create a cascade effect that spreads outward at faster-than-light speeds. Nodded. How fast? Fast enough to catch ships trying to escape. The rupture will expand at roughly 10 times the speed of light for the first few seconds, then slow down as it loses energy. Anything within 50,000 kilometers will be completely destroyed. Felt a chill? 50,000 kilometers was a huge area in space. The Grand Armada was tightly packed around station. If their plan worked, they would destroy the entire fleet in one attack. She continued her walk and found Doctor in the computer lab, surrounded by screens full of equations. The physicist looked exhausted but determined. "How are your calculations coming?" asked. Doctor rubbed her tired eyes. "They're done, Captain. I've run the simulation over 1,000 times. The theory is solid. When we activate the modified quantum drive, it will create a space-time rupture that expands outward in all directions. The aliens won't have time to escape." "And us?" Doctor was quiet for a moment. "We'll be at the center of the rupture, Captain. The Indomitable will be destroyed instantly. We won't feel any pain." Put her hand on Doctor's shoulder. "You've given humanity a chance, Sarah. That's all we could ask for." In the tactical center, found Commander working with the ship's AI on something he called Operation. The AI, nicknamed Aristotle, had been modified with new programming that made it think more like a human. "Show me what you've got," said. Brought up a three-dimensional display of the Nexus system. The Grand Armada is positioned in a defensive sphere around station. Standard tactics overlapping fields of fire, long-range engagement, massive coordination between ships. "How do we beat that?" Smiled. "We don't try to beat it, Captain. We use it against them. Aristotle has been analyzing alien tactical patterns for the past day. They're predictable. They rely too much on coordination and not enough on individual ship initiative." The AI's synthesized voice joined the conversation. "Captain, I have identified 17 tactical weaknesses in the Grand Armada's formation. Most importantly, they have positioned their largest ships on the outside of the sphere, with smaller escorts on the inside." Study the display. "That's standard defensive positioning. What's the weakness?" "If we approach from the right angle, broadcasting a distress signal, they will likely direct us toward the center of their formation for processing," Aristotle explained. "Once we are inside their defensive perimeter, their own large ships will block their firing solutions." Nodded excitedly. "It gets better, Captain. We've been analyzing our hull damage from the battle at Earth. From the outside, we look like a ship that's about to fall apart, perfect for a distress signal approach." Began to see the plan. "We approach as refugees, get directed inside their formation, then start the 47-minute charging sequence for the quantum drive." "Exactly. But here's the human touch, Captain. While we're charging, we don't just sit there and take their fire. We fight like humans, chaos tactics, ramming attacks, use their own ships as cover, make them so confused they can't coordinate properly." Like this plan, it used humanity's greatest strength, the ability to adapt and improvise under pressure. The aliens would expect them to fight like a military ship, but instead they would fight like desperate humans with nothing to lose. "What about our weapons?" asked. Lieutenant appeared on the screen from the weapons bay. "Captain, we've been working on that too. Chief helped us modify some of our cargo containers. We're filling them with explosives and metal fragments. When we get close to enemy ships, we can jettison them and detonate them manually." Was impressed. "Improvised space mines." "That's right, Captain. We've also prepared the ship for ramming attacks, reinforced our forward sections and set up emergency bulkheads. If we need to ram an enemy ship, we can do it and still keep fighting." Walked to the main bridge and sat in her captain's chair. Around her, the crew worked with quiet efficiency. They all knew what they were preparing for. In less than 12 hours, they would begin their approach to Nexus. In less than 16 hours, they would either save humanity or die trying. Aristotle said, "What are our chances of success?" The AI paused for a moment, calculating. "Captain, if you are asking about our chances of survival, they are effectively 0. If you are asking about our chances of destroying the Grand Armada, I estimate 67% probability of success. And our chances of the aliens stopping their attack on human colonies. If we destroy the Grand Armada, the probability of stopping the genocide increases to 92%. The alien coalition will be severely weakened, and they will likely reconsider their strategy." Nodded. Those were good odds for saving billions of innocent humans. The price was the lives of everyone on the Indomitable. but it was a price they had all chosen to pay. "All stations, this is the captain," announced over the ship's communication system. "In 10 hours, we will begin our final approach. I want everyone to understand that this is a volunteer mission. Anyone who wants to leave can take an escape pod to one of the outer planets. No one will think less of you." She paused, waiting. The ship was silent. "I'm proud to serve with all of you," continued. "Whatever happens in the next day, remember that we fought for something important. We fought for the future of the human race." Ended the announcement and looked around the bridge. Her crew was ready, the ship was ready, the quantum weapon was ready. Now all they had to do was fly into the heart of the largest fleet in galactic history and convince 3,000 alien ships that they were harmless refugees until it was too late for the aliens to stop them. Smiled grimly. It was exactly the kind of insane plan that might actually work. The aliens thought they understood humans, but they had never faced humans who had absolutely nothing left to lose. Aristotle said, "Begin final approach calculations for Nexus." "Calculations complete, Captain. We will arrive in 11 hours and 37 minutes. Gripped the arms of her chair. "Then let's go show them what humans do when someone threatens our children." The Indomitable changed course toward Nexus, carrying humanity's last hope and 847 people who had chosen to die for their species. The Indomitable dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Nexus system, and immediately every alarm on the ship began screaming. The Grand Armada spread before them like a metal constellation, 3,000 ships arranged in perfect formation around the central station. "My God," whispered Lieutenant from his station, "I've never seen so many ships in one place." Captain studied the massive fleet through the main screen, dreadnoughts the size of city blocks, carrier ships that launched clouds of fighter craft, destroyers with enough firepower to crack a planet's surface, all of them waiting to coordinate the final destruction of humanity. "Begin broadcasting our distress signal," ordered. "Make us look like desperate refugees." The communications officer activated the signal they had prepared. "This is the cargo vessel Mercy's Light requesting immediate assistance. Our engines are failing and we have civilians on board. Please help us." Had ordered the real ship's name hidden. The aliens would recognize the Indomitable as a military vessel, but they might ignore what looked like a civilian cargo ship. "They're responding," reported the communications officer. "The flagship is directing us to approach station for processing." Smiled coldly. Perfect. The aliens were doing exactly what they had hoped. Follow their instructions, take us toward the center of their formation. As the Indomitable moved deeper into the Grand Armada, could see the alien ships up close. Each one was massive, heavily armed, and crewed by thousands of soldiers who had spent years conquering human worlds. Today, they would all die. "Doctor, how long until we can begin charging the quantum drive?" asked. "We need to be within 40,000 kilometers of the station, Captain. That will put us at the center of their formation, where the cascade effect will catch the most ships." 15 minutes to optimal position, reported Aristotle. Activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. In 15 minutes we begin the final phase. Remember your training. Fight smart, fight hard, and make every shot count. For humanity." The bridge crew worked in tense silence as they approached the heart of the enemy fleet. Watched the tactical display as hundreds of alien ships moved around them. So many weapons pointed in their direction. So much death waiting to be unleashed. "Captain," called the sensor operator, "I'm detecting some unusual activity from the flagship. They're running deep scans on our hull." Felt her heart skip a beat. If the aliens discovered who they really were too early, the plan would fail. "Can they identify us?" "Not yet, but they're getting suspicious. Our damage is consistent with a battle-damaged cargo ship, but some of our hull modifications are military grade." Made a quick decision. Prepare for emergency acceleration. If they identify us early, we'll have to fight our way to the center. Commander nodded and began issuing orders to the engine room. Around them, the alien ships continued their slow patrol patterns, unaware that death was flying right through their midst. "Optimal position in 60 seconds, announced Aristotle. Gripped her chair. "Doctor, begin quantum drive charging sequence." Deep in the ship's engine room, the quantum drive began to hum with increasing power. Energy flowed through modified circuits, building toward the moment when it would tear a hole in spacetime itself. Charging begun, Captain. 47 minutes until cascade activation. The communications console suddenly erupted with angry alien voices. "Captain, they've identified us," reported the communications officer. "The flagship is demanding we stop and prepare to be boarded." Stood up, all hands, battle stations. Emergency acceleration directly toward station. The Indomitable suddenly burst forward with every bit of power its damaged engines could provide. Around them, the alien ships began turning to intercept, but they had been caught off guard. The human ship was already inside their formation, and their own vessels were blocking clear shots. "Incoming missiles," called the sensor operator. "Point defense full activation," ordered. The ship's defensive guns came alive, filling space with streams of energy that intercepted the incoming missiles. Explosions lit up the darkness as metal fragments scattered in all directions. "Direct hit on our port side," reported. "Hull breach on deck 10. Ignored the damage reports. They had expected to take heavy fire. The important thing was to survive long enough for the quantum drive to charge. Aristotle, tactical analysis. How do we use their formation against them? Captain, recommend immediate course change toward the heavy cruiser domination. If we pass close to their hull, their escorts cannot fire without hitting their own ship." "Do it." The Indomitable dove toward the massive alien cruiser, passing so close to its hull that could see individual weapon ports. The alien ship tried to turn its guns toward them, but the human ship was too fast and too close. "Fire everything," ordered. The Indomitable's weapons blazed, tearing chunks out of the alien cruiser's armor. At point-blank range, every shot was a direct hit. The alien ship staggered under the assault, its shields failing and atmosphere venting from dozens of holes. "Ramming course." "Captain, are you sure?" "Do it." The Indomitable accelerated directly toward the alien cruiser's bridge section. At the last second, ordered, "Emergency reverse." The ship's engines fired in reverse, but they still hit the alien cruiser with tremendous force. The impact shattered the alien bridge and sent both ships spinning apart. "Damage report," called. "Forward sections took heavy damage but were still fighting," replied from engineering. "Quantum drive is still charging, 39 minutes remaining." The battle continued around them. Had never seen space combat like this before. The Indomitable fought like a wounded animal, using every dirty trick human ingenuity could devise. They jettisoned cargo containers filled with explosives, detonating them when alien fighters got too close. They used large alien ships as shields, forcing the enemy to choose between hitting their own vessels or letting the humans escape. "Multiple contacts approaching from starboard," called the sensor operator. Looked at the tactical display. A squadron of alien destroyers was moving to intercept them, their formation perfect and coordinated. "Prepare the improvised mines." "Ready, Captain." Launch them directly into their formation. Containers flew out of the Indomitable's cargo bays, tumbling through space toward the alien squadron. The aliens, thinking they were debris, ignored them until they began exploding. The carefully coordinated destroyer formation dissolved into chaos as ships tried to avoid the expanding clouds of metal fragments. "Take us through that gap." The Indomitable dove through the confused alien formation, firing at every target they could reach. 2 destroyers took critical damage before the humans were past them and moving toward their next objective. 25 minutes remaining on quantum drive," called Doctor. Check the tactical display. They had fought their way deeper into the enemy formation, but more alien ships were converging on their position. Soon they would be completely surrounded. "Captain," said Aristotle, "I am detecting massive energy buildup from the alien flagship. They are preparing to fire their primary weapon." Looked at the main screen. The flagship was 10 times the size of the Indomitable, and its main weapon could destroy a moon. "Time to intercept," asked. 4 minutes, Captain." Made another desperate decision. "All power to engines, take us directly at the flagship." "Captain, that's suicide," protested. "Everything we're doing is suicide," replied, "but if we're going to die, let's make it count." The Indomitable charged directly toward the alien flagship, every weapon firing. The massive enemy ship tried to turn its main gun toward them, but the human ship was too small and moving too fast. Watch the distance close on her tactical display. 3,000 kilometers, 2,000, 1,000. Brace for impact, ordered. But instead of hitting the flagship, the indomitable dove underneath its hull, so close that the two ships' shields sparked against each other. The alien flagship's main weapon fired, but it hit empty space where the human ship had been a second before. Quantum drive status, called. 15 minutes remaining, Doctor replied. We're more than halfway there. Looked around her bridge. Half the stations were damaged and several of her officers were bleeding from minor injuries. But they were still fighting, still surviving against impossible odds. All hands announced. We've made it this far by fighting like humans. 15 more minutes and we save our species. Keep fighting. Around them, the Grand Armada continued to converge. But the crew of the Indomitable had tasted hope, and they refused to give up. They would fight for every second, every minute, until the quantum drive was ready to tear their enemies apart. The final 10 minutes felt like hours. The Indomitable had fought its way to the very center of the Grand Armada, surrounded by thousands of enemy ships. Half the human crew was dead or wounded, and the ship itself was falling apart. But they had survived long enough for the quantum drive to reach critical charge. 8 minutes remaining, called Doctor from her station, her voice hoarse from shouting over the noise of battle. Captain looked around her damaged bridge. Commander was dead, killed by an explosion that had torn through the forward section. Lieutenant was running the weapons with his left arm in a makeshift sling. The main screen flickered with static, showing the alien fleet closing in from all sides. Captain, called the communications officer. Incoming transmission from the alien flagship. Wiped blood from a cut on her forehead. Put it through. Admiral's face appeared on the screen, her scaled features twisted with rage. Captain, you have fought well, but this madness ends now. Surrender immediately, or I will personally ensure that every human in this galaxy dies slowly. Laughed, a sound that held no humor. Admiral, you still don't understand humans, do you? We don't surrender, we don't give up. And we sure as hell don't let people like you threaten our children. His eyes narrowed. Your ship is surrounded, your crew is dying. What can you possibly hope to accomplish? Smiled, and for the first time in days, it was a genuine smile. We're going to show you why you should never underestimate the human race. Cut the transmission and turned to Doctor. How much longer? 5 minutes, Captain. The quantum field is approaching critical resonance. The ship shook as more alien weapons found their target. Could feel the Indomitable dying around them. But they were so close now, just 5 more minutes. All remaining crew members, announced over the ship's communication system. This is Captain. In 5 minutes, we're going to activate the quantum weapon. When we do, we'll tear a hole in spacetime that will destroy every alien ship in this system. We're going to save billions of innocent humans, and we're going to send a message to the galaxy that humanity will never bow down. She paused, looking at the faces of her surviving crew members. It has been an honor to serve with you all. When they write the history of this war, they'll remember that humans never give up, never surrender, and never stop fighting for what's right. The alien fleet continued to pound the Indomitable with everything they had. Weapons that could melt through planetary armor tore at the human ship's hull. But somehow, impossibly, the ship held together. 3 minutes, Doctor called out. Noticed something on the tactical display. The aliens were pulling back slightly, creating more distance between their ships and the human vessel. Aristotle, are they trying to escape? Negative, Captain. I believe they are preparing for a coordinated final assault. They intend to destroy us with overwhelming firepower before we can complete whatever we are planning. Nodded, the aliens had finally realized that the damaged cargo ship was actually a dangerous enemy. But it was too late. They had let the humans get too close, and now they would pay the price for that mistake. 2 minutes, Doctor's voice was almost lost in the noise of the battle. The alien assault began. Hundreds of ships fired simultaneously, turning the space around the Indomitable into a storm of deadly energy. The human ship's shields failed completely, and atmosphere began venting from dozens of breaches. Hull integrity at 15%, reported Chief from Engineering. I don't know how much longer we can hold together. Gripped her captain's chair as the ship bucked and twisted under the alien assault. Around her, control panels exploded in showers of sparks. The lights flickered and went out, replaced by the red glow of emergency power. 1 minute, Doctor called out. Looked at the tactical display one last time. The Grand Armada surrounded them in a perfect sphere, every ship firing every weapon they had. 3,000 alien vessels, representing the combined military might of a dozen species, all of them about to learn what happened when you threatened the human race. 30 seconds. The quantum drive's hum had become a roar that could be heard throughout the ship. Could feel the energy building, reality itself beginning to bend around the modified engine. 15 seconds. Stood up from her captain's chair and walked to the center of the bridge. Her surviving crew members looked at her, waiting for her final words. 10 seconds, Doctor called out. Thought about Earth burning behind them. She thought about the billions of humans on colony worlds who would die if they failed. She thought about the children who deserved a chance to grow up in freedom. 5 seconds. Raised her hand to give the final order. 3, 2, 1, activation. Do it, said quietly. Doctor pressed the activation control. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then reality itself seemed to tear apart around the Indomitable. Space twisted and folded as the quantum drive created a rupture in spacetime itself. The tear began as a small point of absolute darkness, then expanded outward at impossible speed. Watched through the flickering main screen as the expanding rupture reached the nearest alien ships. The massive vessels simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, but erased from reality as spacetime itself collapsed around them. The rupture continued to expand. Hundreds of ships vanished in the first second, thousands more in the next few seconds. The perfectly organized Grand Armada dissolved into chaos as ships tried desperately to escape the expanding zone of destruction. But there was no escape. The quantum rupture moved faster than any ship could travel, catching the alien fleet in its grasp and pulling them into the void between dimensions. Felt a strange peace as she watched the alien fleet disappear. They had done it. Against all odds, one human ship had destroyed the largest military force in galactic history. The Indomitable itself was at the center of the rupture. Could see the walls of the ship beginning to dissolve as reality collapsed around them, but she wasn't afraid. She had kept her promise to humanity. Captain, said Doctor, her voice calm despite everything. It's working perfectly. The cascade effect is exceeding all predictions. The entire fleet will be destroyed. Nodded, any word from our automatic transmitters? Yes, Captain. Our battle recordings are being broadcast across the galaxy. Every human colony, every resistance cell, every person who still fights for freedom will see what we accomplished here today. Smiled, that had been part of the plan from the beginning. Even if they failed to destroy the fleet, the recording of their battle would inspire other humans to keep fighting. But they hadn't failed. They had succeeded beyond their wildest hopes. All hands, announced one last time. This is Captain of the UHS Indomitable. Today we proved that humanity will never surrender, never give up, and never stop fighting for freedom. Our sacrifice will save billions of innocent lives and show the galaxy that humans cannot be conquered. The quantum rupture reached the Indomitable itself. Felt the ship dissolving around her, reality fading into something beyond description. But even as she died, she could hear the voices of her crew singing an old Earth song about going home. 3 months later, on a hidden base in the Outer Rim, a group of human resistance fighters gathered around a communication screen. They had just received the recording of the Battle of Nexus. "Did you see that?" whispered one of the fighters. "One ship destroyed their entire fleet." "The Indomitable," said their leader, an old soldier who had fought since the war began. "Captain and her crew, they saved us all." News of the battle spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On occupied human worlds, resistance cells emerged from hiding. In alien space, the Hegemony Alliance began to fragment as member species questioned whether the war was worth continuing. The Admiral, one of the few alien survivors, sent a final report to her government. The humans should have run, any logical species would have run, but they chose to fight even knowing they would die. We can destroy their ships, but we cannot destroy what they represent. They have already won. The war continued for 3 more years, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. Humanity had learned that they could not be conquered as long as they refused to surrender. And across the galaxy, whenever humans gathered to remember their heroes, they would speak the name of the indomitable and the 847 souls who chose death over defeat. Captain and her crew had become legend. And legends, as the aliens learned too late, are far more dangerous than any weapon.